Hi, I'm Artist, and today we'll try out Affinity, the Adobe alternative, which just became free recently. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Affinity can be counted as, dare I say, the Adobe's official rival. Like, at least that's my impression of them. And at first, their products were one-time purchase, as opposed to the Adobe subscription model. But recently, like last month, they took it a step further and actually made the whole thing free. Yeah, like with no string attached, fully featured and stuff. And don't worry, they won't take your data to train AI, as they very confidently explain so on their social media. So yeah, from what I know, Affinity has always been called an alternative to lots of Adobe stuff like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign and stuff. And you know me, I don't really use any of those, so why am I here? Because it's free and you could paint with it. And I know one or two things about trying out free painting programs, so why not? But again, because of this, I want to get a few points across first, which is one, I won't compare this to how Adobe stuff work because I barely know them myself. Instead, I will base my opinion on my past experiences with other painting programs. And that leads to number two. I will only test the painting capacity of Affinity, not photo editing or vector or anything like that. Because that's what I mainly do and know about the most. So initially, I was quite excited to try this because I never thought one day I could try something that is advertised as professional level, as industry standard for free on this channel. A peek into an unknown, previously paywalled area is always thrilling, but well, let's just unpack things one by one, shall we? So first, about the shortcuts. They are pretty good, and I think Affinity does a good job hand-holding you with all the basic stuff like navigation, brush shortcuts, etc. I was able to do all of this just by poking around in the program itself, because with each tool, all the related shortcuts are written along the bottom line over here, so quite beginner-friendly in a sense, which is, understandable. They don't want to scare people away and want to create an impression that is as welcoming as possible, to lure more people in, which is great if you never used this program before, like me. And I was very pleased with the shortcuts themselves. Like for navigation, we have the holding space and dragging your pen around to move the canvas, holding space and control and dragging your pen left and right to zoom in and out. And I was actually pretty impressed with the brush shortcuts. Like we can hold Ctrl and Alt and drag on your pen left and right to adjust the size, which was my favorite, but it didn't stop there. Like while still holding Ctrl and Alt, you can cycle between different brush properties by just tapping your pen, and then dragging around to change them too. This includes the spacing and the rotation. But maybe in some cases, it can be a little bit too much because you could accidentally change something you don't want to change quite easily. So that's that. And then we have the holding Alt and dragging to pick colors quickly. Put a pin on this as we will discuss in details about it later on. Anyway, for anything more than shortcuts though, I think you do need to watch some tutorials to understand how things work here. Like don't even try to guess it yourself, I don't think anyone can do that. But luckily right now there are quite a lot of Affinity tutorials rolling out there, as it just freshly got free and Affinity has been partnering with lots of creators to make more videos. But you can also watch older ones as well. Things shouldn't be too different, I think. So yeah, I wanted to know how the clipping mask thingy works here because I wanted to experiment with some colors in my first attempt. Yes, there was a first attempt, which was some really pretty pomegranate pieces, but I will talk about it a little bit later. For now though, I looked up some Affinity tutorials, and apparently the clipping mask here works by dragging one layer onto another. But be careful where you drag the layer to though, because it is different. Let's say we have layer A and layer B. By dragging layer A onto the thumbnail of layer B, A will become the base layer which determines the area you could paint in. However, by dragging A onto the layer name part of B, B will become the base layer. Yes, very confusing, but that's how it works here, I think. Not so sure though, but hopefully the visual will help somehow. Now let's talk about that first attempt. So why did it become the first? Well, it was because of the brushes. I had quite a hard time deciding which brush to use for this video. Not because they don't have many brushes to choose from, they do have a lot. It is on a tab that is hidden somewhere on the right side of the screen, which at first I didn't realize that, so I was like, what the hell, they don't have any brush preset at all. Like, don't worry, they do, it's just hidden away somewhere. And me having a hard time choosing brushes was also not because all of them were so good that I didn't know which one to choose. It was quite the opposite. Everything I tried, I felt like there was something missing about them. Like, I didn't really know why. It was just like a hunch. But anyway, after a lot of back and forth, I thought I finally was able to choose something acceptable. The 96 Rainy Gouache something. Yeah. And I had to write that down because Affinity doesn't have anything that allows me to favorite or put it into a new different tab or anything like that. Like, I could put it in another existing tab but not a new one, which is so odd. Like, I think this is something pretty basic, especially when a program has so much brushes like this. Like, or could it be I missed something, but I tried right clicking and stuff, but I couldn't find anything similar to that. So, Anyway, just a small tangent. So the big deal here was that this gouache brush was acting so very odd. Like, it was fine with just one layer, but when I wanted to layer something else, like another color on top, like, I couldn't really layer that actual color on there, but just a really faint version of it. Like, the very dark red I put in there, somehow I felt like it wasn't dark enough, so I had to use straight up black in there. And I thought it had something to do with the wet edges thingy up there, so I tried turning it off, but it didn't fix anything, just made things even weirder. And then I tried some brushes from the oil category on top, and things seemed to be a little bit better. But then 1 hour passed, and I was only able to finish rendering this little tiny itty bit over here. So I was like, oh, nah, this won't do, I got a bill. So that's why I abandoned these cute little pomegranate pieces. So the second attempt was the one you have been seeing from the beginning of the video, and I began this one with another brush from the acrylic category because I assumed the problem was the gouache part, and the same thing happened again. The cream part went very dandy, but when I wanted to layer some blueberry on top, all I got was just a ghost version of it. And now officially I think this was a water medium problem, like gouache, acrylic and stuff, and I suspected they were made that way because people wanted to emulate how these kind of mediums behaved in real life, which made me wonder did they ever touch any of these medium in real life, but that's beside the point. Anyway, after I was able to, I think, isolate the problem, I chose a brush from the dry media category, and thank God and my ancestors, things finally was working normally again. But you think the problem ended there? Oh no, sweetie, of course it was not, because why would it be that way, huh? The next thing I got a problem with was the color picker shortcuts. Yeah, I just got a flashback to the Adobe Fresco one. Oh my god. Anyway, so as I said before, the shortcut for color picking is holding Alt and dragging your pen. So at first, I was like, that doesn't sound very good. But when I started to actually use the shortcut, I realized I could just hold Alt and do a little tap, and it still registered that I used the eyedropper tool. And then I was like, oh, that's good, me like. But then the problem with the Alt key is that it is also a shortcut to access all the stuff up there, like on top of the screen. So sometimes I pressed the key down and released a little bit too fast, so it didn't count as holding, just a normal short press. So the program thought I wanted to do something with the file or edit, or I don't know, get some help. And suddenly I couldn't do anything, like even press Ctrl Z to undo. And the first few times that happened, I was panicking because I didn't understand what was going on. But slowly I realized what was happening and just calmly pressed the Alt key one more time whenever that happened. And then all of a sudden, that didn't work anymore, and it started doing this. And mind you, I lifted my pen from my tablet at this point. Like, I didn't even do anything here, and that happened. So very cursed. At this point of the painting, I started to feel pretty impatient and couldn't wait for this to be done. So admittedly, I did a pretty scuffed job from the strawberry onward. But you know, it's pretty rare for me to get this impatient with an art program. Like usually at this point, even if I don't like something, I already calm down and accept it as a part of the program and try to work with or around it to the best of my ability. But this time, well, I blame this frustration on the inconsistency of how things have been behaving so far. And yeah, that may be the biggest thing over here, I think. And also, by the way, just as some cherry on top, this program doesn't have a reference image tool, and I was using PureRef over here. It doesn't have a time-lapse recording feature, which to be honest, I didn't expect it to have because Photoshop also doesn't have one. And also, sometimes you also got a bonus jump scare when your layer suddenly disappeared from the navigation view. Don't worry, it still was there on your main window and would eventually come back on the smaller window. But for a second there, I thought all my effort in 2 hours was about to go down in the drain. And that was not a fun emotion to go through at all. So the whole painting experience in Affinity not only filled me with frustration, disappointment, but also confusion. Like with something like this, how do they expect to pull any customer from like anywhere, not even specifically from Adobe? Like granted that this is just about the painting side of the program, like not about the photo editing or vector stuff. I don't know anything about those, so I won't comment. But at the same time, a lot, like so many people also use Photoshop for painting purpose as well. So is Affinity going to just ignore that whole portion of the demographic? Like then how can you expect to beat Adobe like at all? Like even in the free category, Krita is a far better option than this. Or, you know, could it be that I am missing something here? Like I am genuinely confused. Like how could something looking so professional with so many features like this could possibly be this bad for painting? Like if anyone here has used Affinity for painting, like just now after it went free or from a long time ago, please let me know if I was doing anything wrong or missing some important thing here. Because painting in this thing just does not feel good, you know? Anyway, for now though, this is how the little dessert turned out. Enjoy it. So yeah, that was my experience with painting in Affinity. Not good by any means. To be honest, I'm still confused. Like, I think everything I used was all the very basic stuff, like nothing fancy at all. But why did it turn out the way it was? Like, what a letdown. Anyway, at least hope you enjoy my suffering somehow though. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day/night ahead and see you later.